On the evening of November 16, 2022, Atlanta loses a young mother whose life was full of promise, but also full of pain. Her name was Corneshia Butler, just 29 years old, a mother of 4 beautiful children. She had done everything within her power to protect herself, but the system that should have shielded her instead left her exposed. That night, her story ended in tragedy, at the hands of the very person she had once trusted most. This is Wednesday Crime Gist, where we uncover real stories of toxic relationships that spiral into tragedy. Make sure you hit subscribe, and at the end, check the next video on your screen for another chilling case of a toxic marriage gone deadly. Corneshia Butler was more than just a name in a police report. She was a daughter, a sister, and most of all, a devoted mother. Friends described her as a woman with a bright smile who worked hard to provide for her children. Despite the weight of her struggles, she kept pushing forward, showing resilience that inspired those around her. Her children were her world. Every decision she made with them in mind. Even when life grew difficult, she found ways to keep going, because she knew they needed her strength. People close to her say she had a heart that forgave easily, sometimes too easily, and that would later play a role in the dangerous cycle she was trapped in. When Corneshia first met Shakyia Perkins, the relationship did not begin with darkness. Like many abusive relationships, it started with charm. Perkins knew how to say the right things, how to make her feel special, and for a while it seemed like she had found someone who cared. But that surface charm slowly gave way to something else: control, manipulation, and intimidation. At first, the signs may have seemed small: arguments that escalated too quickly, words that cut deeper than they should have. But over time, those moments grew more intense, more frightening, and harder to ignore. Corneshia did what many victims of abusive relationships often do. She tried to hold on, hoping that things would change, hoping that the person she once believed in could go back to the person she thought she knew. But deep down, she began to understand that her partner was not the same person she had fallen for. Sources like court records and Atlanta Journal-Constitution reports confirmed that Corneshia began reaching out for help, recognizing the danger she was in. Her strength lay not only in her endurance, but in her courage to speak up and seek protection, even when the system often seemed slow to respond. She was not weak. She was not silent. She was a woman fighting for her life and the safety of her children. For Corneshia, the relationship did not simply grow unhealthy, it became dangerous. And the danger was not hidden. She reported it. She documented it. She called out for help over and over again. According to court filings and police records in Fulton County, Corneshia made at least 13 police reports against Perkins. Each report was another piece of evidence that her life was at risk. These were not just small disputes. They included incidents of stalking, threats, and physical intimidation. She also sought protective orders, hoping that legal boundaries would provide safety. But even those papers, signed by a judge, could not keep Perkins away. Restraining orders, by law, are meant to create distance. But in Corneshia's case, they became only words on paper, broken again and again with little consequence. One of the most frightening events came when Perkins was accused of setting fire to Corneshia's belongings. Arson is not a warning sign that can be ignored. It is an act that shows clear escalation, a willingness to destroy not only property but also the sense of security inside a home. Corneshia had every reason to believe she and her children were no longer safe. And then there were the death threats. Clear, direct warnings that her life was in danger. These threats were not only terrifying for Corneshia but also deeply traumatizing for her children, who witnessed the fear their mother carried. Despite all of this, despite the police reports, the restraining orders, the arrests, Perkins was released on bond multiple times. Each release was another blow to Corneshia's hope that the justice system could protect her. Each time, it meant the danger was walking free again, only growing bolder. In interviews with Atlanta-based reporters, Corneshia's family shared how she often said she felt like no one was listening. She was trying to survive, but the walls of protection she thought existed were full of cracks. It is in this period of her story that the pain becomes especially heavy. Because Corneshia did what victims are told to do. She spoke up. She went to the police. She went to the courts. She followed the steps society tells victims to take. And yet, the cycle continued. Her pleas for safety were answered with silence, and her courage to seek help was met with delay. She was left exposed, waiting for a system that never seemed to act quickly enough. Corneshia begged for help. But help never came. The date was November 16, 2022. A Wednesday evening in Atlanta. For most families, it was an ordinary night. But inside Corneshia Butler's home, the final act of her story was about to unfold. She was not alone. Her youngest child was there, a baby who should never have had to see the kind of fear that filled that house. That evening, Shakyia Perkins forced her way in. For Corneshia, this was not unexpected. She had lived for months in a state of alert, never knowing when the next confrontation would come. But nothing could prepare her for what happened next. Outside, cameras were recording. The footage captured Perkins walking calmly to her car. Not in a rush, not in panic, calm. She opened the door, leaned in, and retrieved a gun. Then, with chilling determination, she walked back toward the house. Those images, simple, silent, but heavy, would later become evidence of just how planned this moment was. They showed that this was not a sudden outburst. It was a decision carried out step by step. Inside the home, the tension was unbearable. A mother trying to shield her child. A partner consumed by anger and control. The walls that should have been safe became the place where months of warnings, reports, and pleas for help finally reached their breaking point. And then, in front of her child, Corneshia's life was taken. When it was over, there was silence. The kind of silence that feels heavier than noise. Her child, left in the aftermath, became the quiet witness to something no child should ever endure. Neighbors and family later described the devastation. They had known Corneshia as a fighter, a woman who never gave up on protecting her children. To know that her last moments were spent doing just that was almost too much to bear. The pain of that night still lingers, not only for her family but for everyone who has looked at this case and seen how many times it could have been stopped. In the courtroom, months after the incident, the outcome was clear. Shakyia Perkins was convicted of first-degree murder and sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. On paper, it was the highest penalty the state could give. But inside the hearts of Corneshia's family, the victory felt hollow. Because this wasn't just about one night. This was about years of warnings that had been ignored. Corneshia had done everything she was told to do. She filed police reports, she obtained restraining orders, she showed evidence of threats, even arson. And yet, the very person she begged to be protected from was allowed to walk free again and again. Her family sat in court with heavy hearts. Yes, Perkins was gone from the streets, but nothing about that changed the fact that 4 children no longer had their mother. Nothing could erase the memory of a toddler left in silence after witnessing the unthinkable. This case sparked outrage not only in Atlanta but across Georgia. Advocates asked the same painful question: how many red flags are enough? How many police reports does it take for the system to step in with real protection? The Fulton County District Attorney's Office later said that cases like this showed why bond policies and restraining orders need reform. Fulton County DA Fonnie Willis and Senior Assistant DA Travis Thomas both pushed for stronger systems, including the creation of a family justice center, a place where victims could find legal, emotional, and protective resources all in one space. Corneshia's story is more than headlines. It's a reflection of how cracks in the system can cost lives. And it leaves behind an uncomfortable silence. How many other victims are living through the same nightmare right now, filing paperwork, making calls, hoping someone will take them seriously before it's too late? If you found this story eye-opening, like and share this video, subscribe to Wednesday Crime Gist, where we dive into the darkest true stories of toxic marriages turned deadly. And don't stop here. Check the next video on your screen for another shocking case of a toxic relationship that ended in murder, this time on livestream.